right, everybody. We wanted to talk to you a little bit today about wood selection. Now that we've given you a lot of the parameters of the stock, the measurement, the science of the field, quote unquote, we wanted to talk to you about what that translates into picking a piece of wood in order to be able to make those dimensions a reality. So there's no other better person to talk to about that than Andrew here. I'm going to hand it over to him in just a second. But what I wanted to talk about with the wood a little bit today is the aesthetics of it. As you can see from my custom stock here, I like a lot of marbling in my stocks. A lot of people will like, very tight grain. Some people will like very wide grain. Some people like burling. Some people like dark. Some people like light. With this gun and this forend, what I really liked is that it transitioned from a lighter color in the front all the way to a bit darker in the back. So these are some of the things that are very personalized to you, but when I'm looking for a piece of wood, this is what I'm looking for. So I'm going to hand it over to Andrew to talk to you a little bit about what you're actually looking for in the grain structure, the moisture content on the wood, and overall selecting a solid blank. Because I don't know if you guys noticed from the beginning of this video till now, we may or may not have changed blanks. So I'm going to let Andrew talk to you a little bit about why we did some of that. And Andrew,
thank you, Brett.
Over to you.
Okay. So this becomes the most important part of this whole project. If you pick the wood wrong, none of the stuff we've talked about will come to fruition and you just won't get what you need. So this is the first step, and the most important step is to make sure you pick the right piece of wood. So I've drawn roughly the outline of a stock on here with chalk so you can actually see with the white line. So if I just stand up here, what we want to talk about initially is the beauty factor of the wood, which is what the client desires, brand desires. What happens behind here is up to him. He can pick anything he wants, like he said, from burl to fleck to whatever it is. What happens in front of here is now important to me, the stock maker. If the residual strength of the wood is not good enough, this is the head and through the grip. If it's not good enough through there, you run the risk of cracks, complete breaks, all kinds of horrible things happening just because the wood was incorrectly chosen and incorrectly turned into a stock. So again, what happens behind the grip means nothing to me. That can be as fancy and as crazy as possible as the individual likes. But from here forward, we're looking for strength. So how we judge that is, I don't know if you can see or not, and I will wet the stock here in a minute and show you just how beautiful this is going to be when we're done. But the grain literally follows this picture perfectly. In fact, in all the years I've been stock making, I haven't found one that's quite as perfect as this. I've seen lots that have been way good enough, and I've built many, many, many stocks in the past. But this one here, and this is one of the reasons why we chose this wood. We went back with the original blank that we talked to you about, and we couldn't quite agree on how to lay it out there, to get the correct strength and the correct beauty with the particular shape of his stock. Not saying that blank is a wrong blank for anybody else, but for our particular needs, it didn't suit us. So we went back to our good friend Mirdad Fanusi in Dallas here, and went back to him and said, okay, we need to pick another piece of wood. And so without any problems, we were able to do that. And we stumbled across this one. I'm telling you, I wanted to bring this. I'm glad he purchased this for us to do this job, because now picture perfectly describes what we're looking for. So you can see the grain structure runs literally with the grip angle and the grip shape. Why that's so important is because the weakest part of the stock is if you flex it this way, up and down. You've got to have the strength to stop any fracturing or any cracks appearing there. So again, this just for the gun gods are shining on us when we pick this piece of wood. What it is literally picture perfect. So that was one of the main reasons for doing this. Also, because you're such a big fella, we needed more length to play with and more depth in the stock to play with. So again, this blank just covered every base. The forend. There is a strength factor involved in the forend too, but not nearly as important as the wrist area, because it doesn't take any recoil abuse except for harmonics. It feels the vibrations and it gets affected with heat and expansion and contraction, doing so forth. So the forend, really, you just want to pick a piece of wood that as much as possible matches the grain structure of the blank, if you cannot get the forend out of the blank. And because of the shape of Brandon's particular desires and my design, we don't have enough wood in this to get it out of the same blank. So we happened just to find a piece that was very, very, very close to being what we needed. And so, with once this thing is said and done, and we'll lay this out so that and Brandon was trying to talk to you about this, explain this to you about what he liked particularly with this, how it turned out, is it has a color differentiation from the top to the bottom. So it kind of flows, and it just looks like one big story going from one side to the other. We're going to emulate it with this too, and we're going to create that story for you too, so you can see it'll start at the tip of the forend, and it should blend all the way through to the back end. Aesthetics are everything to me. Function is very important. Maybe it's the most important thing, but really aesthetics are huge. When you're spending this kind of money and this kind of effort to do this kind of work, you've got to have beauty. And again, the beauty is personal. Everybody likes something different. From the stock maker's point of view, from here forward, it's got to be strong. From here back, you can add whatever you want. Okay, so now what I want to do is I'm going to actually wet the stock. Now, I'm sure you've probably seen this online. There's a lot of guys doing this on YouTube and Instagram, Facebook. So I've got a little jar of water here and a rag. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet it so it will emulate what the finish will look like on the stock and when it's actually finished. And it really is a beautiful blank. So here we go. So as you can see, I've removed the chalk outline now, but now you can really, really see how beautiful this is going to be. It's quite amazing how a little bit of moisture or how a finish will change the look of the naked wood. But again, look at that grain structure, folks. It's absolutely picture perfect. I love this blank. It's really, really, really quite a special blank. Also, the other thing I want to talk to you about, not only does it have side strength, as we see from the side, but we also have through strength through the top here too. So again, I don't think we find a better blank. I really don't. This is really quite a special piece of wood.
And Andrew, I wanted to add there too, something that's special for me when I'm looking at wood, and you'll see on my stock that I have here, that it's very close on one side that it is to the other.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that the grain is running through the wood very uniformly.
Mm-hmm.
So when I'm picking a blank, especially in looking at those kind of things, you really want to make sure you look at the side and look at both sides and make sure that they're as close as possible.
Yep, absolutely. Yes, so what he's saying is from side to side. That's another thing about choosing a blank. The better that it matches itself from side to side grain structure-wise, the more expensive the blank will be, and so that's what you're paying for. You're paying for uniformity throughout the whole thing. And again, if you're going to spend the kind of money and put the amount of time it takes to build a custom stock, you got to do it right, So again, I go back to aesthetics. Aesthetics are very, very important. This is a job for life. When I build your stock, I build a stock for you so you can carry it till the day you finish shooting. You give up shooting, you retire from it. So we've got to keep that in mind, that this thing has to last the lifetime of the person, and therefore their children, their grandchildren, and so on and so forth. We create an heirloom that goes on and on and on. So there you go. So I'm very excited to get this started. I think this is going to be a gorgeous blank. Oh, one other thing. What you're seeing here is 1D. When you 3D the stock, i.e. when you curve it and you change the angles and you create all the little shadow lines and whatever have you as you go through the stock process, it'll change this completely. So the lines, if there are any straight lines there, they start to curve around and they create all kinds of different kind of beauty. So I love watching the client's reaction when they pick the piece of wood and then they come back and look at it as it's being turned into a stock. Is that my piece of wood? It sure is. So it will change. So it'll change from this. And again, we'll show you as we go through this, it will change from this, sometimes subtly, sometimes majorly. We really don't know until we actually get into it. Now, last thing I want to talk to you about is the moisture content in the blank that you choose. This is very important. Typically, as stock makers, we look for the blank to be anywhere between 8 and 12%. Any drier than 8%, and the wood becomes brittle. Any wetter than 12%, and now you run the risk of further warpage in the wood, i.e. you take it down to the core. Obviously, when you get to the core, it increases from what you measure on the outside with regards to the moisture content. And that if you build a stock that has got a wet piece of wood on it, it will warp and move around and cause all kinds of nightmares for you. So again, there are some extremely important parameters we got to follow when we do this. But again, it's not a big thing. As long as you work with somebody who knows what they're doing, they won't lead you astray. So I hope you've had a little bit of education there. I can't wait to turn this into a stock. It's going to be beautiful. So very excited. Thanks very much for being here. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
you.